I'm doing this for me, not to be seen, but to be heard. I feel like if this is a space that I'm going to enter, I feel like this is something not that people need to know, but they should know. And if I can make a difference in their life in a small way, a big way, in any kind of way, that's something that I hope to do. Because you can overcome the things that you've been through. So this is a little story all about how my life got flipped and turned upside down. So I'd like to take a minute and you sit right there. I'll tell you a little bit about how life isn't fair. This is not a story about being no fucking victim. This is not no story about being no weak ass nigga. This is a story about overcoming dysfunction, overcoming abuse, neglect, being put down, disrespect, learning who to be, how to be, what to tolerate, what not to accept, who to become, not allowing those around you to dictate who you are, who you're going to be, where you're headed, what you'll have, and how you feel. This is a story full of fucked up shit. If you like fucked up shit, you're in the right place. My truth is fucked up. I think everybody's truth is fucked up. But who isn't fucked up? I was born June 30th, 1996 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My father was 60. My mom was 35. He was 25 years older than her. He was born in 1936. She was born in 1961. I was not planned. Both of my parents were heavy drug users and drug addicts before my birth. Their drug of choice was crack cocaine. They had been selling drugs and doing drugs for a significant amount of time, at least 10 to 12 years before my birth. As I said, I was not something that was expected. I don't think my mother wanted to be a parent. My dad already had 2 daughters from a previous relationship from 20 years prior. He was already in their life, but really didn't participate much as far as raising them goes, from what I understand. While my mother was pregnant with me, my family had to watch over her, from what I understand, to prevent her from doing drugs, as she was an addict that did not go to rehab. She chose not to have an abortion. I'm not quite sure if it was for religious reasons or at the time she thought, or my parents felt as if that would make us a happy family or something like that. While I was with my mother, it didn't take very long, from what I understand, for her to start indulging in drugs again, maybe 6 months to a year. My father was showing up to try to see me, to pick me up. She wouldn't answer the door. She was often, from what I understand, under the influence. And during these times, I was just not being minded for. I was just in the house, just being left alone. I was 1 and 2 years old, so these are not things that I could really recall. These were things that I was told. There was 2 occasions that led to me being taken away from my mother. 2 in specific were, there was one occasion my father showed up. My feet had been peeling. I had diaper rash. My hair was long and unruly. He had been banging on the door, banging on the window. She didn't wake up. And I was just in the house, unkept, unfed, just looking the worst of the worst, not looking healthy, not looking taken care of. And as a man back then, from what was explained to me, it was pretty difficult for you to do anything as far as like custody and having an influence over the mother in court. So he had to start documenting these incidences, from what I understand. And basically, after that occasion, he showed up another time. And again, this is what was explained to me. I had pushed a chair to the counter and climbed from the chair to the counter to the top of the refrigerator. And then after I got to the top of the refrigerator, I was sitting there trying to eat a box of cereal. And as I was eating the box of cereal, I sat on the edge of the fridge and the door swung open and I fell and I busted my head open. So I have a scar on one of these sides. I don't quite remember where it's at. And my dad said that he came into the house and he found me laying in the kitchen in a pool of blood. And he was very scared because he thought it was my eyes. And my mother was upstairs asleep, knocked out, had no clue what was going on. So after that, he took me and he left. He took her to child custody court. There was 3 separate occasions that she did not show up for court. And eventually they gave him full custody and she didn't lose rights to me, but she had no guardianship. And I could go over there to visit if I wanted to, but I didn't have to. So as a child, I didn't quite understand what was happening, even at 2 and 3 years old. I just couldn't recall, but I do know that I missed my mother and I wanted to be around her. Like any child would want to be around their parent. I would go over there on the weekends and I can't quite recall what started it. It's not my fault, but as far as the abuse goes, both of my parents were abusive to me, but it was significantly my mother that really had a major impact on me inside and out, verbally, emotionally, physically, however you want to put it. When I would go over there, it would only be on the weekends. I felt like I had to. Like I said, I don't know where it started. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 4 years old. She had a single mastectomy and she had one of her breasts removed. She went through chemo and stuff during that period in time. And it seemed, while that's something that's life-changing, it seemed like that she was scared. And I don't know if she had ever stopped doing drugs. I don't really know much if she's a God-fearing individual or anything like that. I really don't know. I've never seen her really express much besides just nastiness towards me. Like I was an inconvenience in her life. Or even maybe like I was the cause of her being sick. She did ultimately beat the cancer and go into remission, but during that time, I just recall things changing. I would go over there on the weekends. My mom never worked. I've never seen her go to a job. She was always someone that was on welfare, on benefits. She was often bragging about being on welfare and benefits. I lived with my dad Monday through Friday. I went to school. I lived with him. There's no other way to put it. The first times I recall getting beaten, and I'm not talking about discipline. I'm talking about like kids will be kids. I'm talking about being beaten was for leaving the toilet seat up. I don't know why that was something that she felt like I did on purpose. I know that sounds crazy, but if I left the toilet seat up, I was getting my ass beat and bad. Then I was getting taunted and laughed at. I'm talking about bruises and whelps. I was a normal child in the beginning. I was happy. I had fun. I had lots of friends at school. I liked to go outside. I liked to play. Somewhere around that time, at least as far as my mother is concerned, is when children should be seen and not heard started. That shut me down. You would think that it would only be in a sense of that maybe it was only stay out of grown folks' business or something like that. But it wasn't anything of the sorts. I was absolutely shut down as far as expressing myself. And I was often put into over adult situations because of how dysfunctional my family was. And I didn't quite understand when to speak up and when not to speak up. And when my mother was abusing me, I wasn't very much allowed to go outside. I wasn't allowed to go into people's houses when I visited her. They weren't allowed to come over. When it came to birthdays or holidays, my mother didn't purchase much for me, if anything, if I recall. My grandfather used to give us checks on Christmas and birthdays. They used to come in a card in an envelope and have my name on it. She used to take them. My family, my aunt, my grandmother, and stuff like that, not that they were much better, but they would argue with her about if she wanted me to save it or to put it away, to give it to my father or something like that. Basically, she right in front of me, like this was a blatant disregard. Like they would be disagreeing if we were having dinner or stopping at my grandmom's house, which was right across the street. A point of contention was always me because my mom treated me as if I was her shadow. Like my mom was a narcissist. I was supposed to exist because she had created me. It wasn't a sense of a bond, it was about control. She would say right in front of us, "What? This is my son, and what he gonna do with it? I need it more than he do. I got bills to pay." These would be $50 checks. I came to learn over time that I just did not matter. When it came to that, children should be seen and not heard. I may be moving quickly here. I'll get into more detail about the abuse, but I'm setting up the narrative so you can understand. I was a shell. Before I even learned how to have self esteem or learn what I was worth, it was already being taken away from me from a very young age. Because I was such an inconvenience to my mother, she had no problem expressing that to me. What was confusing to me was that the adults around me, whether in public, private, family members, like people that knew us, they allowed this to occur right in front of them. No one spoke up for me as far as the physical abuse and the verbal abuse. I was a normal sized child up until I was about 5 years old. And then once I got into the mindset of not being able to express myself, is when the eating started. Both of my parents cooked. You love your parents' meals. Nothing's like your mother's fried chicken. I was a child that had to eat until I absolutely about to bust, like explode. Food, just like you smoke a cigarette, you have a drink, it's an escape. It blocks you from everything that's going on around you. My mom, as much as I cared about her, she taught me to be scared of her. I'm talking about genuinely scared. I believe that my mom would cause me harm. It wasn't just about her putting her hands on me or anything like that. It was literally that as a child, I needed to act accordingly. I needed to mind myself. It wasn't even about children should just watch their mouth or anything like that. It was genuinely that I had to tiptoe. I had to make sure that everything that I said and did matched up to what she wanted me to do. We didn't travel, we didn't go anywhere. Like I said already, she didn't purchase me much as a child. I didn't really get gifts very often. She was taking from me. You could go to the corner store and get a bag of chips for a dollar. My dad would give me a few dollars to last me the weekend. She would go on my bag and take that. Literally, I would be asleep. I would wake up. I would go on my bag. My little $3, $4, $5, maybe even 10 if my dad had it, would be gone. It was always, oh, so what? I'm your mother. Just like that. I never got it back. It was never made up for. It was basically that because my father was providing for me where we were living and the perceptions of versus living in the city and the suburbs, the perceptions of me was that I was privileged. I had it. I spoke like a white person. That's all she often said was, you just sound so white. You talk like this and you talk like that. Well, actually, mom, well, actually. There was just so many instances of me just not being able to be myself. As much as I wanted to be not like her, but be a part of her, is she did a good job of explaining to me that I wasn't like that. As time went on, I had to grow to be comfortable with that. This is not who I am. That's just where I'm from. The more I became comfortable with that, the more that bothered them and her. And when I say them, I mean my aunts, my grandma. They all carried this same mentality. They were all different versions of each other. So with the abuse, it started with the toilet seat. Then it became almost anything that I did. If I didn't say this right, if I didn't do that right, if I didn't move right, the more weight I gained. She used to say, I won't embarrass you if you won't embarrass me. I was gaining about 15 pounds every 6 months. Every time we went to the doctor's office, I was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There was no accountability for my parents at the doctor's office. It was only accountability for me. It wasn't why or what's wrong. Are you okay? Because it was obviously that it was a form of neglect and abuse. Not even the doctor was asking those types of questions or asking my parents to step out of the room. It was just that Malik needed to back away from the table. We don't know what his problem is. If Malik doesn't back away from the table, he's going to eat himself to death. Doctor's appointments became the worst experience of my life. I'm going to be honest and transparent here. As an adult, I don't go to African American doctors because, as opposite as it sounds, it just didn't have the positive effect on me as a child. I did not believe that they advocated for me. It just very much felt like a personal attack. Throughout this whole story, I'm going to tell you several instances where I just sound like a victim. That's just the sad reality of it, is when you're a kid, you feel picked on. When I would go to these doctor's appointments, it was, you need to go to the health clinic at CHOP, which is Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. They've got a weight loss clinic they had just developed like 20 years ago, back in 2005. Malik needs to go to that. Malik needs to go to this. He needs to follow this diet program. He needs to do that. My parents never followed through, neither one of them. As soon as we walked out of the doctor's office, my dad was often embarrassed as well. They usually didn't come together. It was separately. My dad was a little bit better, but he was always talking to me about backing away from the table, and I had too much fat around my heart, that I was going to die early. I was going to have diabetes and a bunch of issues. My mom, on the other hand, as soon as we would leave the doctor's office, the door wouldn't even hit us in the ass before she had something to say about how big I was, how embarrassing I was to her, that basically I was big, fat, sloppy, nasty, and dirty. Did I know what that came along with? She used to tell me they were going to take my legs. I was going to be a diabetic. I was going to have to use a grabber, one of those things that you go like this with. You can pick up things. She used to say, you're going to have to wipe your ass with one of those. This was not something that was like jokey, jokey, hee hee, ha ha. This was literally like, this was dead ass. This was being said to me at a point of 5 or 6 years old and on. I'm talking about kindergarten on. It's like you think telling a kid that Santa Claus isn't real is fucking hard. And that was also done. But literally, they're going to take your legs. 600-pound Life was on TV. She was like, they're going to have to take the door off the frame to get you outside. They're going to have to put you on a fucking flatbed. You're going to be so fucking big that, you know, you're going to be on types of medications, shit like that. You're never going to have any type of quality of life. For some reason, I just couldn't understand that as a child, that if I was being taken care of and things were being provided for me, why wasn't I being assisted in these things? I had a hard time, and I think any child would have a hard time trying to figure out, how is this on me? Help me. Take me somewhere. Get me in the gym. Back me away from the table. Make some healthier meals. What can we do differently? So basically, with all the weight gain, I was a constant embarrassment to my mother. Another one of her famous quotes was, "You're a reflection of me. You are just so embarrassing." She also told me that I was a mistake. We were standing in the kitchen one time. She was cooking. I was a fat kid. That dude loved to eat, and I still love to eat. I used to count the food, but I think a lot of kids did that. It is an unhealthy habit. It was something that was just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you count all the chicken wings. Why do you do that? I can't stand when you do that. That used to get on her nerves, and that used to just get her started. I don't know why I would do that. I don't know why I would set myself up. One of those evenings, she had just said something like, while she was standing there whipping me a new ass, something like, "You was a mistake, da 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 da." My face just shut down. She was just like, "Oh, come on. I wasn't saying it like that." It was, no. If you're going to be this bully, your words are going to be so intense. You're not going to have any patience. You're going to speak to a child, your own child, this way. Then I have no choice but only to take you seriously. I'm scared of you. You're leaving marks and bruises on me. You're abusing me in public and in private. I have no choice but to take you seriously. She used to say, "Sticks and stones, so what? I'm your mother. I can do that." And again, with this blatant disregard, it was like, okay, so how else am I supposed to take this but to be the truth? If one minute you want me to be scared of you, the next minute, oh, you didn't mean it that way. Which one is it? It was this emotional roller coaster of going up and down and up and down on when to take it seriously, when not to take it seriously. Then eventually it became my fault. I was dramatic. I was sensitive. I wore my feelings on my sleeve. There was not much time for positivity. My mom did not give me compliments. She did not tell me that I was handsome. She was not a mother that was like, oh, baby, you just big boned. No, my parents didn't hold their tongue when it came to my weight. It was not a joke. That sensitivity, it made me sensitive in all realms of my life with going to school, dealing with other family members, being sociable, talking about people, judging others, because I was being constantly judged in private. I believed that being judged was a normal part of my existence. The more I was judged, the more I shut down. So with the physical abuse, it got to a point where every weekend I was going to my mother's house and I was just getting my ass beat. It didn't matter. I could just be sitting in my room and she would come in there upset about something. She was coming to beat my ass. My dad had left certain items in her house. One of them was a thick leather cowboy belt. She was like, I'm going to cut that leather belt into strips, whip you with it so it can leave whelps and marks all over your back. That was a time where I realized that my mother was mentally ill. She had said that to me several times. I think that was by the time I was like 6 or 7 years old. I don't think that there's anything that a child could do to any adult that would warrant you saying, even if you do believe in discipline, that would warrant you saying that you would want to cut something into strips so that child could be whipped with that belt. During this time, I was being molested by several different people. They were not adults. They were older children. One of them was a cousin of mine. Two of them were like a couple of kids in the neighborhood. Because my self-worth was so low as a child, I felt so shut out. I was so over adult. The molestation, as crazy as it is, it felt normal. It was like an escape. It wasn't necessarily that I liked it. It was just a time where I didn't feel like I was being put down. Although I knew it was wrong, I didn't feel like either one of my parents would understand, not in the sense of protecting the individuals. I felt like that they would have blamed me. They were going to say that this was something that I had caused or I had done. Because I remember several instances of having sleepovers. There was nothing going on, but we would just be in there joking, laughing. I had one godbrother. When I did have sleepovers, my mom would bust in the room and be like, what's going on here? What are you doing? Why are you touching boys? To me. Not that either one of us should be accused of something like that, even though some of that is what was happening, but just not at that time. Why are you just not asking questions? Why is it my fault? There was no, not that someone should be okay with that, but in any instance, there was no benefit of the doubt with me. If someone said I did something, if someone said your kids did something, you say, okay, let me talk to my son, I'll get back to you. If someone said I did something, it was Malik did it. There was no benefit of the doubt. It was I was a bully. I did this. I took that. I stole this. I said this. I said that. Any opportunity for me to be beaten or for her to put her hands on me. The conclusion that I came to, even with not even being able to express myself about being molested, was that my mom did not like me. I was an inconvenience in her life. The reason why I was an inconvenience in her life is because she could not figure out how to make her life work with me in it. Her life literally just consisted of living on benefits, smoking drugs, not going to work, each day doing what she wanted to do, living off of $600 in food stamps each month, selling majority of them. She was receiving food stamps from me, which I did not see, even though I did not live with her. When I look back, there's just no memories of us having a good time. There's no positive influence that she had upon me. There was not a time where I could say, wow, my mom really taught me something or that she showed me something. I wanted my mother's love. The more she put her hands on me, the more she took from me, the more she talked down to me, the more she talked about my weight, the more she talked about how embarrassing I was. She allowed other adults to say and do the same things to a child. What I don't understand is that, again, if you have all this influence on your child, why didn't you think that this was going to have a negative effect on the way that I viewed you? So, with all that being said, the verbal abuse has been for my entire life up until about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I was around 10 years old. I was gaining a lot of weight at that point. I was about 5'8", 5'9" at 10 years old. I was getting taller and taller. She was going around telling people she would have to hit me with 4x4s and shit like that when it came to disciplining me. She was always ready to backhand me, pop me in my mouth, whatever it is. There was no rapport between me and my mother. If I went to visit, I was to sit there and I was to be quiet. Nothing was funny. There was nothing to be entertained about. She often had mood swings. She was up and down. The only positive time that we had was if she was cooking. So there was an instance where I used to go over there after school. She never helped me with my homework. She never asked me about homework. That was not something that she participated in. She always expected me to do well in school, but she never really asked about it, participated in it. She wasn't a parent that showed up at all. So I was over there. She decided, I'm going to go through his backpack. I had forgotten a lunch in there. I was in third grade. And basically, instead of it just being, oh, Malik forgot the lunch in his backpack, it was, you fat, sloppy motherfucker. You left this shit in your bag and you knew about it. It's in here and it's rotten and it stinks and it's going bad. And I think there was like a tasty cake blueberry pie in there. If you drop your backpack, it'll go flat. So I didn't know that it was in there. I didn't smell it. I didn't see it. Because I had a good backpack. I forget what brand it was, but it was good. And it was waterproof, so you couldn't smell through it. They had the earphone hole. You could run the earphones through. Y'all remember when those came out? So basically, she went off the deep end and beat my ass all day about this backpack. Call your father. I can't recall, but he wasn't answering the phone. She just was beating my ass all day up and down that house, all day. I was miserable. I was tired. I was beaten up. I was bruised. I was whelped. I was out of breath. I was just done. By the time my dad answered the phone, I don't know what I was supposed to say. I just said, Dad, can you come and get me? She said, that's not what the fuck I told you to say. I don't know what I was supposed to say. I don't recall. I don't remember. He showed up. He was ringing the doorbell. She wouldn't let me go downstairs. She said, stay up here. So she went downstairs. I went downstairs. This was the first time that I had been bold. I was a shadow. Like I walked around looking at the ground. I had no self-esteem around anyone. There was no escape. I did not feel comfortable. I was so scared that day that my mom was going to kill me. If I had stayed there, I wasn't going to leave there the same, nor did I feel like I was going to be all right. I think that she had really snapped. She was at the door and he was saying, what are you doing to my son? What is wrong with you? She's talking about, oh, he's not going anywhere. He's not leaving. My grandmother lived right across the street. They were on the back balcony screaming, oh, yeah, Tammy beat his ass. That's right. Whoop his ass. Da, 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 da. Because they did a whole lot of picking and choosing on what was going on. And that's what was so trifling and disturbing about it was they knew that I was being abused. Hurt people hurt people. So what had been done to them was being done to me. She was in the vestibule. He was at the door. I pushed past her. She said, oh, he pushed me and look, he put his hands on me. And you know how every black mom is like that. You go like this and put your hands up. You really swung on them between the door and her arm. I got in the car. He took me to the police station to look at my body. He took pictures of the bruises. He wanted to press charges, but I don't know. I still was whining, crying like that was my mother, and I didn't want anything to happen to her. But what I did know that I stopped going to her house. She was calling on the phone, doing all this harassment. Oh, he's a child. How can he tell you that he doesn't want to come over here? I'm his mother. I'm only doing what's in his best interest. So what? He is big, fat, sloppy, nasty, and dirty. He is a slob. Who's going to say it to him if I don't? It was constant. It was never ending. I love my son. I love my son. I ain't telling him nothing that nobody else would tell him. Sticks and stones, sticks and stones. So when it came to that sticks and stones, that's when I started to learn again, I'm not taking nothing you say seriously. I don't want to see you. I don't believe that you care about me. I don't believe that this is in my best interest. I don't believe that you love me. None of that. I don't. I don't believe that. It became this desperate attempt for control. There never was a time that she slowed down. There was instances like that she had come over for Christmas, special holidays. She had gotten sick on several occasions. She had gallstones. She had to have a gallbladder removed. She had breast cancer, as I originally explained. She had lung cancer. They had to take a part of her lung. Although she was out of our lives, my dad had a soft spot for her when it came to her illness. So between the ages of 10 and 15, she was kind of around, but only when those instances were happening. She was seeking sympathy, not connection. She was coming around to use my dad as if they had some type of dynamic. I've never seen my parents kiss. I've never seen them being romantically interested in each other. They usually only got along for so long. Even that only lasted for so long because she was coming over, she was starting drama. When she would say, "You're so big, fat, nasty, and dirty," my mother was trifling. Her house was dirty, infested with mice. She could not use her basement. She could not use her backyard. She did not have cabinets on her walls. Her bottom cabinets were infested with mice, with roaches. She barely had groceries. The meals that she cooked were not fresh. They were out of a can or out of a box. The freshest thing that she cooked was a piece of fish or fried some chicken. That was it. If she didn't cook, I didn't eat. My grandmother would not feed me, and she was right across the street. I was an inconvenience. I was in the fucking way. For all the food stamps she got, she sold them. I've never seen my mother do drugs, but she was always acting like a fucking junkie. We'd go to the grocery store. She'd go down the chip aisle, grab a bag of Chex Mix, open the bag, start eating it in my face, and say, "Oh, don't do this. Your big ears don't need any." And she'd eat it all around the store, right in my face, and go down the aisle and roll it up, put it back with the Chex Mix in the back of it. Her bathroom went out one time. She was pissing in trash cans, pissing in the sink. When it came to the mice travel in packs, she was stuffing steel wool in the holes to stop the mice from coming out. We'd wake up to mice in her cooking grease because everything she did was deep fried. That's why her gallbladder got removed. She deep fried pork bacon. Bacon is literally nothing but fat. Things were incredibly dysfunctional, just didn't make sense. She wasn't living in her own reality to be talking about me as trifling, nasty, and dirty. What type of example are you setting? Even when it came down to personal hygiene, she never bought me a washcloth, my own soap, personal deodorant. You have to teach kids how to mind themselves, how to take care of themselves, how to have pride in themselves. So if you think that I'm going to have pride in myself and you're putting me down, you're not teaching me anything behind it, what do you think the direct result is going to be? That I don't care about myself. That's exactly what happened. You cannot call that shit normal behavior or just blame it on mental health. She was always acting like a junkie. She was a functional addict. She did a good job of hiding the shit that she was doing. By hiding, I mean on her behalf, not hiding that we didn't know what the fuck was happening. What I don't understand is that rather than her just be a deadbeat and just throw her hands up and give up, she had to be this bitch that needed to keep up with appearances. I didn't understand why she just couldn't just take that step back and be like, you know what? I'm not in his life. Why pretend? So once I started keeping my distance is when she wanted to dangle things in my face. I got $50 for you. I got $100 for you. Ride the bus down here. Not that I was delusional enough to be, but when you have a parent that hasn't provided for you, you're looking forward to something which you deserve. Any human being deserves to be able to look forward to something, not to be able to expect, but just to be able to look forward, to hope for something. And you think your parent is finally showing some remorse and they're making up for something. If it was $100, it was $50. If it was $50, it was $25. Sometimes it turned into nothing. Poof, into the faduta, gone. It was always that I was lied to up until that moment. If I was looking for $100, I would get there, I would get handed a 50, and then I would be like, what is this? When you're a kid, $100 is, oh, I'm gonna go get this, or I'm gonna go save that, or my dad's gonna put something towards this so I can get that. Oh, you poking your lips out. Oh, you're ungrateful. I don't have it. I can't afford it. It wasn't that I expected anything. Like I said, I expected nothing from her. This was a trifling. It was the fact that I'm still stupid enough to have believed your word, believed that you cared about me enough to make something up to me, believed that I was coming down here for $100, and that's not what it is. Believed that I was coming down here for $50, and that's not what it is. Out of 12 months out of the year, between my birthday and Christmas, somehow you could not save up anything to give to me to be like, you know what? I didn't let my son down this time. This was really some trifling, poor ass shit. It's something that I could never get used to. So I really got used to, oh, he thinks he's this, he thinks he's that, he thinks he's arrogant, this isn't good enough, he's never satisfied. You fucking right. Now, this is where the growth comes into place. You fucking right, I'm not satisfied. You fucking right, I'm not accepting this. You fucking right, I'm not getting used to this. You beat my ass. You talked down to me. You destroyed my self-esteem. I can't look forward to anything. It was you and me, bitch. It was you against me. We're really fucking going at it. Now it's tit for tat. You've done enough. When you say hurt people have hurt people, you have hurt me enough that I'm willing to fucking play. This is probably around the time I turned around 13. 13 years old. I'm ready to fucking play, bitch. It's you and me. Toe to toe. If you're still here with me, that was part one. Please stick around. I'm going to be sharing more about abuse, molestation, getting older, coming out with my sexuality, sharing that with my father, sharing that with my family, the things that I dealt with at school, a lot of the drama that I involved myself in, self-detriment that I had gotten into by this phase of my life as a result of my lack of self-worth, my lack of self-confidence. Stick around. Look for part two. It'll be coming later on this week.